Do you feel like no matter how much you work out or how healthy you eat, you just can't seem to lose weight and keep it off especially? You're going to do your gym classes, you are showing up, putting in the work, breaking a sweat every single time, you're always eating mindfully, really thinking about your portion sizes, and yet you just can't seem to budge that stubborn fat that you want gone desperately. You want to have a lean, toned, fit body that you feel amazing in. Well, baby girl, don't worry if this is the case right now. I have helped so many women in this exact situation who felt like no matter what they did, they just couldn't see results, end up shedding well over 20 pounds of body fat, building all the sexy muscle definition they'd always wanted, and being able to do this actually more easily and more enjoyably than what they were doing previously that wasn't even working. So chances are you are also actually just trying too hard at the wrong thing. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to lose weight for good the correct way so that you can have a lean, fit, toned, sexy body that you feel amazing in and maintain it year-round for life with ease. So let's get into the video. What's going on, Fit Fam? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan Janice. I'm an online nutrition and fitness coach for women, and I teach you ladies how to eat more food without any restrictions and work out smarter instead of harder so you can have that sexy, toned, feminine hourglass body you really want to have and feel amazing in it year-round for life. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Come follow me over on Instagram for even more fitness content. And if you're coming on back, thanks so much for joining for another video. All right, fam, your ability to lose weight and keep it off for good while also having a sexy toned body to show underneath that weight loss comes down to two things. Number one, you need to gain muscle because muscle is what makes you toned. It's not just taking fat off, it's also having muscle underneath that body fat. That's what makes everything smooth, firm, and tight with all the sexy lines and definition that you want. And the other benefit beyond just aesthetics is that the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism becomes. So you become more of a 24/7 calorie burning machine. So this makes it easier for you to stay lean, show that sexy tone definition, and maintain it all of the time because you are just gobbling up those calories, putting the food you are eating to good use. All right, now along with needing to gain that muscle, you also need to speed up your metabolism. And yeah, part of speeding up your metabolism comes from building muscle, but the other way that you condition your body to essentially burn more calories, to just make it have a higher maintenance level, is by actually eating more consistently. Now, I know that sounds crazy because obviously your whole life you've been told, okay, you just need to eat less, move more, and essentially you need to have a calorie deficit in order to lose weight. And yes, that's true. In order for us to really see significant weight loss, anywhere from 15 to 30, 40 pounds, we are going to need to introduce a calorie deficit at some point. But the kind of secret to all of this, to make it so much more enjoyable and easy and actually get you better results, is to optimize your body for that calorie deficit, meaning to create a calorie deficit at a higher calorie intake. So for example, let's say right now you only average about 1,600 calories a day. Well, since your body is adapted to eating the 1,600 calories, if you wanted to create a calorie deficit right now, that means you would drop to about 1,300 or 1,400 calories, right? Then it would be a 200 to 300 calorie deficit below what your current maintenance is. Now, obviously, only eating 1,300 calories is not very fun. And the thing is, to really see significant weight loss progress, you need to continue to drop your calories in a fat loss phase. You don't only drop them once, because if you do that, you're definitely going to plateau really quickly. Generally speaking, in a fat loss phase, which is called a cut, you usually are going to want to drop your calories somewhere between 700 to 1,000 calories throughout the several months that you're going to be cutting. So if you're starting at 1,600 and you drop 700 calories, you're now at 900 calories, right? Like that is extremely difficult to adhere to. And not only that, it's going to mean that your body's not burning that many calories because your body adapts to the amount of food that you're eating. And of course, since we also want to build muscle to have that sexy tone definition underneath, we can't really be building muscle when we're eating 900 calories a day. That's like no food to build any muscle with. Okay, now let's imagine scenario B. Let's say you got your body adapted to eating 2,300 calories a day consistently because you took the time to gradually increase your food so that your body adapted and started processing more food all the time. Now you burn 2,300 calories a day. That's just your maintenance level. And now you want to go into a calorie deficit. Well, now all you need to do is drop to 2,000 calories a day to be in a calorie deficit. So do you see how much better that is? And now let's say you need to do, again, that 700 to 1,000 calorie drop throughout your deficit. Well, if you were to drop 700 calories, you would be finishing your deficit. This is months later at 1,600 calories a day. So let's take the woman who was only eating 1,600 calories a day and then wanted to lose weight versus the woman who got her body adapted to 2,300 calories a day, and now at the very end of her cut, she's eating 1,600 calories a day versus starting her cut on 1,600 calories a day, and she's ended the deficit at 1,600 and lost probably 20 to 30 pounds doing so. So this whole process of increasing your food the way that I'm talking about and getting your body adapted to burning more calories is called reverse dieting. It's starting to get more popular. I definitely talk about it on my channel. Maybe you've seen some other videos, but unfortunately this is a concept that not that many people know about, and it's really such a shame because most people do know, okay, I need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight, aka also lose body fat. But then the problem is they're trying to do a calorie deficit from already not very much food, which means that it becomes extremely restrictive, extremely miserable, and the chances of them just giving up and then gaining all the way back is very, very high. So this is why we need a more enjoyable, more sustainable strategy. And essentially, the more food you can eat while still being able to achieve your goals, the easier, more balanced and realistic this is going to be for you. Why wouldn't you want to eat as much as possible and still be able to lose as much weight as possible? So that is what reverse dieting is all about. And just to show you what this looks like, if it sounds too good to be true, this is one of my clients, Valerie, who has lost 40 pounds working with me, doing this exact process of doing a reverse diet and then doing a calorie deficit to achieve this transformation. And she also did this at 47 years old, which is an age a lot of people think is too old to achieve results. Here's another one of our clients, Sarah, who's down over 20 pounds from the point when she started with us to where she's at now. And she's eating 600 calories more than when she started, but is now way leaner with that sexy muscle definition. And here's another one of our clients, Kelly, who just finished her reverse diet and then cut and has lost 15 pounds, but more importantly is looking so much more leaner, having ab definition and feeling empowered around food for the first time in her life. Okay, so now that you know the concept of reverse dieting and why you should care and how powerful it is, let's talk about how you actually do it. Okay, so the very first step of implementing a reverse diet is first finding out what your current maintenance calories are. And the way that you do this is you figure out how much you're currently eating. So you need to do a test week of tracking your food in an app like MyFitnessPal. So you're going to track every single thing that you eat for 7 days. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add up the grand total of all that food, divide it by 7, and then you're going to have more or less what your average intake is. Okay, so now that you have the calories from that, next thing you need to do is now actually set macros to it. Macros meaning protein, fats, and carbs. All calories are made up of 1, if not 2 or 3 of these macros, right? So instead of thinking just calories, you want to think what is the source of the calories, because each of these 3 plays a different role in the energy levels you have and also how much fat versus muscle you have on your body, aka how lean and toned you get or not. So generally speaking, the way that you need to eat in order to lose body fat and gain that sexy muscle definition, you need to eat high protein, moderate to high, if not very high carb, depending where you're at in your muscle gain phase, and then moderate fat. So the way that you're going to set your macros is for protein, it's usually going to be somewhere between 130 to 150 grams of protein per day. The closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight, the better. You can be a little bit lower than this if you really struggle to get enough protein, but it's definitely better to try to be in that kind of 130 to 150 gram range. You don't need to go higher than this. I see a lot of women eating like 170, 180 grams of protein a day. That is just way too much. That means you're taking away calories that really should be going to your carbs, because the carbs are going to fuel your performance in the gym, which is going to dictate how much muscle you gain, aka how toned you get, and then also how fast your metabolism is to lose the fat that you want to lose. So after you set your protein, you're going to set your fats. Your fats are the only thing you think of as a percentage. So generally speaking, your fat should be somewhere between 25 to 30% of your total calories. And then what's left over for your macros is going to go to carbs. Okay, so I'm just kind of covering this quickly about how to specifically set your macros because it takes a little bit more detail and I don't want to take too much of the video talking about this, but I've made lots of other videos where I really specifically break down step by step how to calculate your macros. So you can go check that out there if you want to have more guidance on this topic. Okay, so now that you have your macros, you want to aim to hit these at least 5 days a week, even 6 days a week. The reason that you don't have to do it every single day is because remember, we want to have a balanced, sustainable way of achieving your goals. And that means you should still be able to have 1 to 2 cheat meals, which I prefer to call free meals, per week. So that means you get to go out, you get to eat whatever you want, order whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about tracking it. But outside of that, the 5 to 6 days, you want to make sure that you are hitting your macros. That means that whatever your macro target is, you want to be within 5 grams plus or minus. So if your protein target is 130 grams, you are eating no less than 125 grams and no more than 135 grams. Okay, so it is not hitting your macros if your protein target's 130 but you only ate 90 grams. You have to actually hit the targets and hit them consistently. And the reason why is because you need to evaluate how your body is going to respond to the consistent data, because that is what is going to give you the information to know how to continue to move along with your fitness journey, which I'm going to explain all that in 1 second. But just know you got to be hitting your macros, not just tracking macros, actually hit the targets. Okay, so now that you've gotten consistent with hitting your macros, and I want to say in addition that you are also lifting weights, you really should be lifting weights ideally 4 days a week, but it can be as little as 3 if you're just absolutely crunched for time. If you were to do 3 days, I would personally do 2 lower bodies and then 1 full upper day. The reason I would still do 2 lower bodies is number 1, us ladies obviously usually like to have some really toned legs and glutes, but also because a lower body day really is almost like a full body day, because when you do exercises like deadlifts and squats, you're still using your abs, you're still using your back and arms, and it's just burning more calories, requiring more energy from you, because it's just an overall more demanding day than an upper body day is. Now, if you can do 4 days a week, then that's perfect. You can do your 2 lower bodies and your 2 upper bodies. Now, right away at this beginning of your reverse diet, I want to specify that your best chance for already starting to see really, really good progress with your physique is going to come from the fact that yes, you're hitting your macros, but also that you are nailing your workouts, that you are really going in, you are pushing yourself in the gym. You make every single set count. You do your reps pretty much all the way until failure, meaning that you go until you literally cannot do a single more rep, or at least really, really close to that. You're doing full range of motion and you are just really bringing intensity. I promise you, if you really train hard like that, if you push yourself with the weight, you push yourself with your reps, and you're doing your macros, already you are going to start to see such a huge transformation happen to your body. I'm going to give an example of this with my client Londa here. This is a transformation in just about 3 months of coaching, and this was only after doing a little bit of reversing and starting to be 1 month into her calorie deficit. And she's actually eating the exact same amount and weighs the exact same amount in both of these photos, and yet you can see how much her body changed already. She already lost quite a bit of body fat and gained quite a bit of sexy muscle definition. So the reason that she was able to see such a good transformation already is because she has been training really hard in the gym, pushing herself, and then hitting her macros. So a lot of the time, just this alone is going to start to get you a really good transformation. Okay, so now what you want to do is you're going to start to increase your calories bit by bit in a reverse diet. Because what you want to be doing is you want to get your calories up to generally at least 2,000 calories a day, if not a little bit higher than that, to start doing your cut, to start doing your fat loss phase. Generally speaking, I usually like to get clients to around 2,100 to 2,300 calories a day, kind of as a minimum before I start cutting them. But some clients usually maybe they can only go up to as much as 2,000 calories, and some clients can go higher. I've been able to reverse some clients up to, like 2,600 calories before I start cutting them. Okay, so what is it going to look like for you to increase your food bit by bit? It's usually going to be somewhere between 50 to 100 calories that you add in to your macros every 1 to 2 weeks. Now, what I can say about this is I see a lot of people reverse too quickly. I think because they're kind of trying to rush through it, and they think like, oh, well, I'll just keep adding more and more and my body will adapt to it right away. The thing is, you have to give your body a little bit of time for it to actually adapt and start burning more. So if you're kind of unsure about how to do this, I would say err on the side of caution and maybe try to only increase about every 2 weeks. But exactly when and how much you increase is going to come down to how your body's responding. So this brings me to the next piece, which is that you must be tracking your data. You need to be weighing in every single day and keeping track of that in a graph. You also need to be taking weekly progress photos, because Just what you see happening on the scale doesn't really mean anything if you don't see how your body is changing in photos. Because, for example, like the last client, Londa, that I just shared, she weighs exactly the same in both of these photos, but she looks totally different. So can you imagine if she wasn't taking photos and we just saw, oh, the scale's maintaining? Well, we actually need to see, what do you look like? Because even though the scale's maintaining, it's obvious from her photos that body fat is coming off and muscle is coming on. Okay, so you're going to know if and when you should increase your calories based on what's happening with the scale and with your photos. So if the scale is trending down overall as you are doing all this, that is definitely a green light that you can increase, 50 to 100 calories. I'd say if the scale is going down and you are getting very, very hungry, you can err on the higher side of this and give yourself, 25 grams of carbs, which is going to be 100 calories. On the lower side, you would do a 15-gram carb increase, which would be 60 calories. And generally speaking, you're always going to be increasing in carbs because this is assuming that your protein is already set. If your protein is too low, then you also need to be increasing that. And at a point, you will start to add in a little bit of fat as well, because we want to keep fat still in that 25 to 30% range of the total calories. So maybe every few times that you increase, you're going to do a 5-gram increase to fats and maybe only an extra 5 grams to carbs. Okay, let's say the scale is maintaining. This is also where it's probably safe for you to do a calorie increase, but maybe you would do it like every 2 weeks and you would only do about 50 calories, especially if you're not feeling necessarily super hungry. If you are starting to feel really hungry, which is normal because as you start to eat more, and especially if you're training hard, your body's really burning through that fuel, so you might be getting really hungry. And again, the scale might be maintaining, but this is where you want to look at your photos side by side and see, are you getting leaner and more toned? Because that, again, goes to show that it's probably safe to increase your food. Now, the other option that can happen is that you actually are starting to gain a little bit of weight in your reverse. This is where it's going to be really important to look at your photos, because some of the time you might be gaining a little bit of weight, but you are getting leaner and you are getting more toned. This happened with my client Kiana. Here's the difference in her photos. When she started, she was only doing about 1,200 calories a day, and I was able to reverse her all the way up to 2,100 in just about 2 to 3 months. And she actually weighs 4 pounds more on the right, but you can see that she's obviously so much leaner. So this is a really good example that even though the scale was trending up a little bit, it was obvious that she was actually getting fitter, her body composition was improving, so that's why it was okay to increase her food. But now let's say you're somebody who has weight to lose and the scale is trending up a little bit and you're not necessarily looking better in your photos or really seeing a difference there. That's when I would definitely take your reverse more slow. You probably want to spend 2 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer at the same intake, and then you're only going to increase a very small amount. Now, it is okay to gain a little bit of weight in your reverse, but I'd say you don't want to be gaining really more than like 5 pounds in a reverse diet maximum. And just because you're gaining weight, I want to say that doesn't mean you're gaining body fat. You're eating more food. So it makes sense that you might be weighing a little bit more because you have more water weight, more gut weight, glycogen. And again, if you're training hard, you're probably putting on a little bit of muscle. But this is just where I'd say be cautious if you do have weight to lose and you're not really seeing that your body's optimizing body composition wise in the reverse. This is where you can take it a little bit more gradually. Okay, so when do you know you should finish your reverse? Well, like I said, you really want to get to at least 2,000 calories a day, but better usually for most women if it can be in that 2,100 to 2,300, maybe a little bit higher range, because it's just going to give you more room for your calorie deficit. And again, I find with the vast majority of clients that we coach, this is usually where they can end up. So how long should a reverse diet take you? At the very bare minimum, we're talking 1 month, but the vast majority of our clients are usually going to be at least 2 months reversing and maybe as much as 3 before they start to move into their calorie deficit. And again, this is just going to depend on how your body responds, if it's going really well for you, or if we need to finish the reverse a little bit sooner because maybe we're not really seeing the scale drop, but you have weight to lose. That's when we're going to have to start cutting a little bit sooner. So again, it just so depends on your individual case. And I get that this is a lot of information. It's a lot to figure out. So if you don't want to have to figure this all out on your own, if you want to be guided, you want to be told exactly what to do by our team who has so much experience helping tons of women of all different ages and backgrounds achieve this exact transformation, then you can click on the link in the description to apply for our one-to-one coaching to be personally guided by myself or the coaches on my team to achieve the weight loss transformation of your dreams. So if you're interested, I would love to chat with you and see if we'd be a good fit. Okay, so now once you finish your reverse diet, it is time for you to go into your calorie deficit, into the cutting phase. So your cut is usually going to be anywhere from like 5 to 10 months. Now I know that that's a pretty big window, but it just comes down to how much weight you have to lose and how good you are feeling, because some clients really can go for a long time cutting just because they still feel really full, they still feel really good and energized, and the weight just continues to drop off. So there's no reason that we really need to end it. But other clients, you know, maybe they're getting to about month 6 and they're like, oh my God, I'm really hungry, I don't really have energy, or maybe also they're just kind of feeling tired of cutting and they don't want to do it anymore. These are all the factors you have to take into consideration when you're going to decide to end your cut. And once you end your cut, you're going to reverse diet out of your cut once again, because you want to bring your body back up to a higher maintenance level after you have been in a calorie deficit. You want to be able to maintain your weight loss results at a higher amount of food. So the calorie deficit, I'm just gonna kind of breeze through this quickly so that this video isn't super long, but essentially what you wanna do is you're going to, off the bat, drop your intake anywhere between 200 to 300 calories. Usually it can be a little higher than this though, if you got your calories really high. Let's say, for example, you got your calories to 2,500 a day, you definitely could drop to 21 or even 2,000 calories a day. That definitely would be a little bit more of an aggressive approach, but it is possible that you can do that. But let's say you finish your reverse at 2,000 calories a day. Well, you probably don't want to drop lower than 1,700 to 1,800 because you still want to have lots of room to drop as you go through your cut. And the thing is, you probably will already start to see some weight loss happening just from that initial deficit. So you don't want to rush into it too quickly, because you might as well wait and see what you can achieve with just that initial first drop. So the initial drop is going to come from your carbs and fats, not from your protein. Protein needs to stay where it's at. And then in addition, you're usually going to want to add in some cardio and or a higher amount of steps. I'd say this preference also comes down to just kind of how quickly you want to get in and out of the cut, how badly you want to lose weight. Usually we start our clients off with 2 30-minute cardio sessions per week, and we do low intensity steady state. So we go into a zone 2 area for cardio, meaning your heart rate is anywhere between 130 to 150 beats per minute. Now, my preferred choice of cardio for this is the Stairmaster, just because it's the easiest way for you to burn a little bit higher calories. But if you don't have access to a Stairmaster, you could also do an incline treadmill, or you could do the bike. I mean, really kind of whatever you have, but it's best to use either Stairmaster or an incline treadmill, just because you're forced to maintain the pace. You're not gonna be kind of changing the pace just based on how you're feeling unconsciously. Okay, so how to navigate your way through a calorie deficit. Essentially, you have dropped your calories. You've also enhanced the deficit by adding in a little bit of cardio or getting a higher step count, essentially just creating more overall movement. Now, you do not have to change anything in your protocols so long as you are continuing to hit lows. Now, you cannot expect to always see the scale going down, 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 down. That is not how it works. We're women, we're complicated, we are going to have fluctuations day to day. So for example, I've been cutting about 3.5 months, and you can see this is my scale trend. You can see there's lots of ups and downs with the scale. And in fact, every single time I hit a new low, I end up jumping back up a little bit, you know, anywhere from like 1 to 3 pounds. But you can also see there's an overall trend happening to my weight loss. So as long as you are hitting a new low every 2 to 3 weeks, that means you are on track, and that means you do not need to change anything. Now, of course, this is assuming you have perfect adherence. This is just a prerequisite. You cannot think that your cut is not working if you're not actually doing the things, right? Because you have no way of knowing if the protocols work for you if you don't have data, if you're not actually adhering to it. So that's why you need to be hitting your macros, you need to be doing your weigh-ins, taking progress photos, and really pushing hard in the gym, tracking your workouts. When you're cutting, you really should be hitting your macros 6 days a week. Maybe every now and then you can have an extra free meal, but since we're in a fat loss phase, we kind of want to get in and out and maximize your results. So it's best to really, really hit your macros, commit to this phase, Realize you're gonna not be able to eat out like all the time and do all of the things, but it's gonna be worth it because you're also going to lose, 15 to 30 pounds, if not more. So I'll just wrap this up by showing one of our clients' results here. This is our client Danielle, who lost 22 pounds in her deficit. So she came into the program and she was averaging about 2,100 calories a day. So that's actually already really good, but we still like to give everybody at least a little bit of a reverse before we start cutting them, just so we can really optimize for the cut, and also so that we can be eating a little bit more, training harder in the gym, and hopefully putting on some muscle and speeding up metabolism. So we reversed just 1.5 months, got her up to 2,300, so not a huge increase, and then we started cutting from there. And we spent the next 9 months cutting, and she lost a total of 22 pounds, and obviously she's looking way leaner, feeling so much better, and the vast majority of her cut was at 1,900 calories a day. She was literally just losing weight like clockwork. So we really didn't have to change her protocols very much because she just kept dropping. So this is what I'm saying, that you don't always need to be changing things. As long as you're continuing to lose weight, just keep going. Now, towards the very end of the deficit, we were kind of trying to squeeze out the last little bit that we could. So we ended up finishing her deficit at 1,700 calories a day. And now she's in her post-deficit reverse, where we're starting to bring food back up, but she's maintaining the weight loss that she had. All right, fam. So that is how you lose weight for good. Understanding how to speed up metabolism and build muscle via reverse dieting, and then how to go into a calorie deficit, do your cutting from there, so you can lose a bunch of weight more easily and be able to maintain it with a reverse afterwards. So again, if you don't want to have to figure this out on your own, you want to be guided through the process, that's exactly what we do with our one-to-one online coaching program. So if you're interested, you can click on the link in the description. We'd love to chat with you and see if you'd be a good fit. All right, fam, thanks so much for checking out this video. Now next, I want you to go watch this one here, where I'm going to break down a little bit more about what foods to actually eat to support you with your weight loss goals, with getting toned and lean. So I will see you in that video.